So this is Debbie Lacken from Kids Around Dogs, and my super special guest today is not only a colleague, she's also a friend, and is Nikki French.
Yeah.
Woo!
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for coming on and have a chat about ACE, and we'll get to it in a minute because I kind of want people to know how I know you because it's been a while actually. We've known each other for a few years. I kind of lost count of how
Three
many years.
plus. That would have been my guess, but I'm really
Yeah,
bad at dates.
probably. Yeah, probably. I think actually we got to know each other over lockdown, possibly. So it's quite, yeah, quite a few years.
Mm.
And I've found out about you through your book, maybe even. Yeah, I think it
Oh,
was
yeah, let's
through
say
your
that.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's say that. Your book that still is Stop Walking Your Dog. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Um, and then you are obviously a trainer. You are part of Kids Around Dogs, which is awesome. You're part of a few association, in fact, and I know you are collaborating a lot with Sarah Jones from My Anxious Dogs. So you have a kind of hands or paws in a lot of things. But can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been a dog trainer now for 7 years after a complete career switch. So I'm a dog trainer. I'm the founder of Pup Talk the Pack, which is a community membership. As you said, I wrote the book Stop Walking Your Dog. So I sort of it happened during lockdown. I fell into a pattern of working with a number of people that were really struggling with dogs in the outside world. So I've sort of become quite niche with dogs that struggle on walks or out and about. So I do training online, in person. I do local puppy clients, which is just lovely. I'm never going to turn that down. That's just a lovely part of my job. Um, I am a certified ACE trainer. I'm a Kids Around Dogs approved professional. I've recently become a UK Sniffer Dogs bronze
Yeah.
instructor to add some sort of more formal scent work to it, which is really exciting. I'm the founder of Don't Walk Your Dog Day, which is a day where we get to kind of talk about all the things that we might do with our dogs other than taking them for a walk. I'm a packed animal training instructor, so that's certified through the ABTC. I think that's kind of it. That's probably the key stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I could go, I think that's it. Like it's got a list as long as my arm.
Aren't we
It's
all
a
addicted
lot
to
of
that?
stuff.
We're all addicted to learning, though, aren't we? I think if
Yeah.
we're in this field, it's just and obviously, working with zoo animals
Yeah,
next year.
yeah. Next year. So awesome. Yeah, yeah. Um, no, in fact, I love that everything you do it with a lot of passion and you really put yourself into it. And obviously, I think a lot of your work kind of also started with Bodhi in a way. Bodhi is very much, your dog is very much part of your learning journeys, you know.
Yeah, hugely. So Bodhi, yeah, I didn't even mention Bodhi in the intro. Isn't that terrible? What a terrible dog
Oh,
mum I am. There, he's on the wall behind me.
he's always
Um,
everywhere.
Yeah, so Bodhi's a Battersea rescue dog. He came to us from Battersea Cats and Dog Centre in London, and he was 8 months old when he came to us, and he had been in and out of Battersea twice for young teenage exuberance, really, and he definitely struggled. Therefore, I struggled. He's a Collie Lurcher cross, so he's sort of bright and fast. And he was very hand shy. So, husbandry and handling has become quite a passion of mine as well, purely because that's something Bodhi really struggles with. Um, so I learnt so much through him. If I could go back and do it all differently, gosh, we'd have got to where we are now so much quicker. But
Yeah.
you learn, you do the best you can with what you know, and then you
Yeah.
learn together. But yeah, he was just a very excitable, very overly social dog. He would want to greet everyone, every dog. He
Mm.
didn't really have an off switch in the evening. He would be really hard work. Like he
You're like
was,
exhausted.
particularly with my boyfriend Ash, who's quite animated and quite high energy himself. The two of them were just like tigers bouncing off each other. And
You were like, I'm out of here.
yeah, Bodhi
Put
like
those
grabbing
paws
and
on me.
mouthing him and stuff like that. So, yes, if I'd sort of focused more on the walking less early on, it would have helped us. So Bodhi does only get one walk a day at most.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he was so much easier to live with when we reduce the amount of traditional walks that we go on, and we do lots of other things instead. Um, but all of it is pretty straightforward and doesn't take very long. It isn't very, it's not very complicated.
Mhm.
But for us, it was really life changing. So yeah, seeing that firsthand has been a big part of my journey.
And I
Yeah, it's
think that really helps people because you're not only teaching those things, you've been there. You
yeah.
are there in a way. If
Yeah, I still
you
am.
stop,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
if you were to stop your method and go back to maybe walking a million times a day, thinking that that's what he
Yeah,
needed,
more
the
exercise.
problems
Yeah,
will just come back again.
yeah.
And it's funny because in this thing we can really associate with children as well. I think that a lot of kids these days are asked to do too much,
Mm,
even as extracurriculum activity, not only in school, that is insane, the curriculum they have, but after school, there are kids that are just doing so much activity.
mm,
And I get that it's fun to see your kids trying things. That's brilliant. And some kids really do like to try lots of stuff. And also a lot of the time as well, both parents are working. So what do? You get the kids to do a lot of activities, but then they are just a little bit bonkers, overtired, which
mm.
makes them cranky and all that. So I think dogs and kids can definitely again relate to each other when it comes to things like this, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just the more we can use their brain, but in a relaxed
Mm.
way, the
Yeah,
more able they are to switch off and relax.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a
absolutely.
really good parallel. Mm.
Yeah. And I know that you fairly recently, have fully qualified for ACE, the free work, and one of the webinars that we have in Kids Are on Dogs was in fact from Sarah Fisher, who I know you know well, but a lot of folks don't know what ACE free work is. So can you explain it in an easy, simple way?
Yeah, and it is quite a big thing. We describe it like an onion. So we might peel off a couple of the outside layers, and there's so much to it. And I think a lot of people might look at ACE free work if you saw a photo or a video and you'd think, oh, well, that's enrichment.
Mhm.
And it is enrichment, but it's so much more than that. So ACE stands for Animal Centered Education. It was founded by Sarah Fisher, and thousands of dogs that she's worked with and her team of people have worked with, many of whom were at Battersea and other rescue centres. So it's sort of developed over the last 30 years. And animal centered education, the education is centered around animals, but it's education for us just as much as it's education for the animal. So we don't describe it as like dog training. You
Mhm.
can layer in more traditional looking sort of training behaviors, but the principles of ACE free work are just so much more about like a calm, choice led activity. And what we do is we set up simple stations, and these might have different textures, different surfaces, different heights, different things to smell, different things, different foods. And it's about trying to get the dogs, not trying to get the dogs, it's not about outcome, but setting something up whereby the dog might want to explore and really engage their seeking system. And just helping them to just be a natural dog, which actually a lot of their lives they don't get to do. It it's this magical thing that it can support the dog's emotional, physical, and cognitive well-being by helping the dog to slow down. They explore at their own pace. They can explore it, or they can just act in any way that they want to. There's no cues from us. There's no go this way, find this, do that. There's no expectations on us of, I think you'll enjoy that part of it. It's very much about giving them choices,
Mhm.
and then us sort of watching, like really keenly observing and going, right, what is this dog telling me about how they feel, about what their preferences are, about what their needs are. So that all sounds probably fairly woolly, but it can be quite nuanced in terms of helping to build skills that they might be lacking. So, for instance, a dog like Bodhi, that he's quite hand shy, he's not very good about being touched and nails and paws and all that kind of stuff, we can work with Ace FreeWork when they're feeling so good to then build in things where we do get to build up confidence with handling, or it might be confidence with novelty or noises. It can even help things like recall and loose lead walking and separation anxiety. Like there's so many little ways that you can weave stuff into it that the core of it, if the dog is feeling amazing, we're giving them a chance to decompress, to use their senses, and it's amazing what we can kind of weave into it. But we kind of describe it like a daily dose of happiness for your dog, little trip to the spa,
I like
but
that.
just for them to just to feel amazing,
Yeah, yeah.
that's probably
And would you suggest that there are some breeds of dogs that are better suited for ACE, or would you say that any dog can do it?
absolutely any dog can do it. All dogs can totally benefit from it. I think whether it is it's most beneficial for, I think, for the dogs that are struggling in some way, whether that's mentally, whether that's physically. But, I've visited people with a puppy that's been home for 2 days, and we've introduced little elements of ACE free work, to bring up a puppy from scratch, doing little bits of ACE free work. You are going to really help to future proof, to kind of bomb proof that puppy in terms of new experiences and stuff like that. So they can't be too young. And they absolutely can't be too old. My oldest client is a 21-year-old Jack Russell. If a dog can move in some way, it doesn't mean they have to get up. Like, you can absolutely do it with dogs that have got very reduced mobility. You can still give them options and choices to engage their sense of smell. Dogs that are blind and deaf do so well. Generally, the last sense to go is the sense of smell. So, we can always tap into that. So all levels of age, and yeah, absolutely all breeds, because the beauty of ACE free work, and that's part of this sort of education loop, is we set up the stations with intent for what we think the dog might enjoy, but also physically what they would feel comfortable with and physically comfortable. So for instance, you mentioned Sarah Jones and My Anxious Dog. We do the yellow space zones at the dog shows around the country, and that is built on the principles of ACE free work. Now, when you're standing in the middle of a field with whatever I could fit in the boot of my car,
Yes.
there are limits as to how much you can tailor it. But I have these lovely height adjustable camping stools. So basically, you can make a snuffle mat that can work for a miniature dachshund, and it can work for a Saluki. Or we had an Irish wolfhound in there once.
And you needed two of them.
Yeah, so you really do try to adjust the physical nature of it, the accessibility for a really tall dog to be craning their neck and picking up a lot of stuff off the floor. Of course, they can pick up a piece of food off the floor, but if we're looking to create this experience where their body is feeling as relaxed as it possibly can, for them, the majority of things, you probably want them to be slightly higher up. And likewise, a smaller dog, you don't want them to be sort of stretching up or having to jump and things like that. So we really try and look at tailoring things for the dog based on size and their physical attributes. But absolutely every dog can do it for sure. I think it's really beneficial for perhaps things like rehome dogs, when they're struggling to settle in.
Yeah.
A lot of the work that Sarah did developing ACE free work was working with the dogs that were in shelters. So for dogs that are in quite an impoverished environment with all the best intentions, it's still not a home. Introducing little bits of ACE free work can really change the experiences for those dogs. And when those dogs, do get into a home environment, helping them if we can get their body to feel more relaxed, it's going to have a direct knock-on effect to their brain. Their body will inform how they feel. So it can be really useful for that situation.
And you mentioned you prepare, your kind of setup there. Am I right to think you don't even have to spend any extra money on it in a way? You can just get bits and bobs from your house, can you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think once we start, we do tend to go a little bit shopping mad.
Yeah.
I won't tell you how many snuffle mats I do have in the house or that I've made, but anyway, you don't have to.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
absolutely can do it with a dog towel that you just scrunch up a little bit and you create some folds, or it could be, upturned plant pots or recycling boxes or stools, or one of the lovely clients that I have in the membership, they were away at a very dog friendly cottage. And for the first time, and she has two dogs, for the first time, they had this lovely enclosed garden. She was like, I've been thinking I must do some ace free work. So she brought nothing other than a couple of the lick mats and their own snuffle mat. Other than that, they had nothing. So they were scouring around this property that wasn't theirs. And it's amazing what they found, a washing basket and a little side table that worked really well on its side. And,
Yeah.
it's just about having a little bit of imagination
Mm.
and thinking about how can I tailor this to my dog. Yeah. So you don't need to buy stuff.
Mm.
If people do want to buy stuff,
Yeah.
places like Vinted and Facebook Marketplace are amazing. It's amazing how many people are selling off stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't need to buy anything, but it is a bit addictive.
It is, isn't it? I
That's partly
literally
what that pile
empty
of boxes is
everything
there.
at your box. But also, I was thinking, I have these garden benches, like Ottoman kind of thing that you can open and hide stuff in there. Oh my
Yeah,
God, like both of them were full. I literally had to clear one out, and it was all bits and bobs that I was using for free work. The
yeah,
nice thing as well, on what you mentioned on, being creative, is that kids can get fully involved with this, can they? They
yeah.
can come up with their own little course. Um, when you do free work, I assume that you not only you do it with Body, obviously, but you also have your clients that you do it with. Um, what changes do you see in the dogs when you do it regularly as such?
Yeah, I think the two biggest things that I see is increased calmness and
Mm,
increased confidence.
mm,
And if you put those two things together, generally I find most dogs are better able to cope in daily life. They
mm,
are generally easier to live with if we're looking at it from a selfish, human centric point of view. If a dog is pulling on the lead, actually, if they depending on why they're pulling, if they're pulling because they're a bit frantic, if they feel more confident and if they feel calmer, they're less likely to pull. If they're pulling because they're excited, if they feel calmer, they're more less likely to pull. So what we see as the sort of the behavioral struggles, if you like, can be very strange activities, inside at home or in the garden.
mhm,
I think dogs that are reactive, whether you like that word or not, that
mhm.
struggle with other dogs, noises, people,
Yeah,
by doing ace free work when they're not out in the normal world, if you like,
yeah,
it is changing how they feel. So they are generally better able to cope. They're more resilient. To start off with, they might still react to the things that
yeah,
were their triggers, but it might be that the reaction is slightly less severe. It might be that their recovery time is a bit quicker, and we can just create a positive cycle that helps them just to be more resilient with whatever it is that they struggle with. Um,
yeah.
I
Sorry,
think,
I wanted to ask you something on this actually before I forget. Um, You said that because of ACE for free work, the dog becomes more confident and resilient. Why? Like, how does it work? The dog is sniffing stuff out and he finds it's on treat. Why does
yeah,
that help?
yeah. I think there's a couple of things to mention. I think the first thing to talk about is choices or
Hmm.
agency, as some people talk about it. Dogs only get to make choices from the choices that we make available to them. So dogs really have very little choice in life. They are gorgeous, fluffy captives with us.
Yeah.
Eat this, no matter how good and expensive your food is, eat this, eat it at this time, go here, don't go there. Um, they don't have a lot of choice. And obviously, there are things that you can do out on a walk of just allowing them to sniff and maybe allowing them to pick the root and things like that. But dogs have very little choice in life.
Yeah.
And when dogs have more choice, it gives them a more optimistic outlook on life. Like it physically changes the neural pathways in their brain
Mhm.
that changes how they view the world because they feel better. So that's sort of that agency piece can have real power. And I think the other thing is just the physical benefits, dogs and us, like how many of us are carrying tension. You and I will sit at our laptops for far too long and then go, oh, my neck's a bit sore.
Yeah.
But also our dogs, we're kind of giving them sort of self-guided physiotherapy, I guess, if you like, because they inherently know how to move their bodies in the most efficient way. But if they're always walking on floors that are slippery, if they're always eating or drinking from a food bowl that perhaps isn't at the most comfortable height that it could be, there's just lots of little moments in their day when there isn't as much relaxation in their body as there could be.
Mhm.
So ACE free work really helps to rebalance that,
Yeah.
but also the information that it gives us allows us to make other changes in other parts of their life. So you can sort of compound that positive effect. So the physical changes the way they feel. It's like us if we smile and like even if we're feeling nervous before a presentation, like we smile, our brain doesn't know that we're faking it. And it's the same
Mm.
with dogs. If we can get their bodies moving in the way that they're meant to move by setting up things for them, their body feels better throughout the rest of that day and the days following. So yeah, it's a strangely powerful thing that I'm probably not great at talking about all the science for, but I see the outcomes of it. So
Yeah. No, what you said completely makes sense. And it is, to be fair, the same for, again, because we work with kids so much, I think we can see that connection and that kind of same way of living that kids have. Little children especially have very little choice on what they do.
mm,
They get taken whatever it is they need to be taken. It could be, oh, you're going swimming today, and the kids, I didn't want to go swimming, so they might be crying, oh, you're just being silly or whatever, but you're still gonna take them swimming even if they didn't want to go, or other things, because we feel it's good for them to do different things, to go to learn to swim, but just to keep that kind of example. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the child had a choice on doing
mm.
those things.
And
Hopefully, one
also
day
that.
they'll turn around and go, oh, thanks for teaching me to swim. But at the same time, I don't want to go.
Yeah, yeah. But I was also thinking about, you think of most of the time in, mainstream schools that kids have to sit at a desk
Yeah,
for
yeah,
ages, like, and doing all of this. Whereas actually, if when the kids are out on play equipment, they'll be squatting, they'll be jumping, they'll be running, they'll be
yeah.
exploring, and they're never just going to be
Yeah.
sat in a position that is doing them no flipping good whatsoever. The kids that can just squat and crayon in really bizarre positions, and you
Yeah.
look at it, you think, I'd never get up now. But like they know their bodies know what to do
Yeah, yeah.
if they're not constrained into, right, you have to sit here and do this thing.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it's always strange how we are seeing children who are at the peak of energy of their life, and yet they have to sit there like 7 hours a day, 6 hours a day, just sit on the desk. It's not quite right. And I guess it's the same for dogs. Dogs are quite agile things, especially when they're younger, and they would like to do stuff and sniff things, but we don't give them enough choice, as you said. And with ACE instead, they get to choose
Mhm.
effectively what they're gonna go for first, if it's the highest thing, if it's the lowest thing. And I guess the dogs will go where it wants to the most
Yeah,
first.
and they
Yeah.
may ignore something completely. They may choose to avoid walking on something. It's really interesting having different textures underfoot because, if they're avoiding something that's hard, or they're avoiding something that's soft, or they're avoiding something that has some kind of texture to it, that's giving you really interesting information. You might not know why, but it still gives you something to think about and explore. So yeah, it's that feedback is so helpful, and yeah, and yes, if you've got, the food in all the different places, even the most foodie dogs sometimes won't go for certain things because it just doesn't feel right for them, and they'll leave something for whatever reason. So yeah, massive feedback information for us.
Yeah. And it would also give you feedback if the dog isn't very well, maybe the way their posture is and the way they move towards or around an item can give you
Yeah.
indication of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was through Ace FreeWork that I started on my route to finding out Bodhi had mild hip dysplasia in his right hip.
There you
We
go.
were down at Tilly Farm working with Sarah Fisher. I was doing my studies, and it was something so subtle. He was if he was at a station like on a lick mat,
Hmm.
he would move his body ever so slightly forwards and backwards in order to access different parts of the lick mat.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
we noticed, and it's about patterns often, because anything can be a moment in time.
Yes,
We can
of
take all
course.
sorts of photos of our dogs and go, "Oh my God, why is that leg up there?" But it was that repeated pattern of his left leg would stay rear left would stay still,
Mhm.
and his rear right would move half a paw forward and half a paw backwards and half a paw forwards and half. So as he was adjusting, he was just weight bearing more through the left side, and the right, he was keeping some of the weight off. Really subtle. And it's really good to video these sessions because
Yeah.
that can really help. My powers of observation are not as good as perhaps some people's are that are incredible at this. But that was the first observation where it was like, okay, that's interesting. Does it mean he's lame or, no, but it's interesting. It could have
Yeah.
just been he was a bit tight and he was offloading, but it started a journey where we ended up getting the vet to agree to x-rays, and we found out he had mild hip dysplasia. But a vet visit, the vet was like, no, there's nothing wrong with him because they don't get to
Yeah,
see it.
yeah,
The
of
dogs are always
course. Yeah.
holding themselves, and they're not when you're walking around the vet car park, they're
No,
still
not enough.
heightened
Yeah.
or they're on lead. They're not moving naturally and intentionally and slowly. And I hear this story time and time again that often where dogs have behavioral struggles, there is some physical component, gut problems, some kind of pain or discomfort. And ACE free work is just incredible as I don't want to use the word diagnostic, but as a tool to give you information that then can allow you to talk to other people with some evidence. I will collate small clips of videos for clients to give their vets or their physios to go, this is interesting. This is what we see. What do you think of this? And then they can, take that on and do something that the dog might need some additional support for. So, yeah.
And do you feel the vets these days are more responsive to this kind of technique, or are they still a bit on the
Some vets are amazing.
Mm,
I mean, you've got vets like Dr. Amber Batson, who's at the forefront of ACE Free Work, is part of her clinics. And, she sees the most vet fearful dogs and she gets them enjoying their ACE Free Work. And then, like, she's their new best friend, no matter what they have to do. So, there are some vets that are really doing an incredible job. I think it's a mixed picture.
right.
And I think that's why videos can be so helpful
Mhm.
to give some information because they can only see what they can see,
Of course, yeah.
and the stressed out dog in the waiting room or running around the car park, they can't see it. So I have every sympathy for them not to be able to see
Yeah,
this stuff,
yeah.
but hopefully I think it's definitely becoming more accepted. But I know some of my clients have to be fairly firm in conversation, fairly persistent with
Yeah.
conversations of I see my dog every day. Something tells me, my gut tells me there's something going on, and not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, mixed. I think it's a mixed picture at the moment.
I would definitely suggest, as you say, not to take no for an answer. If you think that there is something different with your dog as well, and hopefully you would have a video with Ace to prove what you've seen, in the past that might have suggested a change. But also you have to advocate for your dog. Who else is going to do it? So if
Yeah.
you think that your dog has something, don't be shy. Do
And I say to people like the vets are incredible and their knowledge is incredible, but no one knows your dog like you are, like you do. You are the expert of your dog because you
yeah.
see them day in, day out, and you do know the little nuances that other people can't see.
Mm.
So yeah, just trusting yourself and trusting your gut to just have those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, as well, I would suggest to trust the kids a lot of the time, well, maybe if they're very, very little, it's a bit tricky, but they are very observant kids. And they, maybe because also they're, a lot of the time, they're not listened as much as others. They do observe things and they might notice something different about the dogs. We grown-ups didn't have time to see because life is busy and we got the kids, we got the dogs, and you got the house and work. So it's difficult to really keep your eye on everything. So if the kids have noticed something, don't just dismiss it because they might have a point. And so with ACE, you might be able to then work out, that there is something, in fact, up with your dog. And
And they probably don't have the same prejudices that we do. They also have a slightly different viewpoint, unless you've got kids that are as tall as you. They're also lower down,
that's true.
which is quite interesting. They probably spend more time on the floor. They
Yeah.
may see different angles. So yeah, it's they can definitely see things that we might not with our very adult, probably blinkered view of life.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's exactly that, isn't it? It's just I think as well after a bit when life is so stressful, you do put the blinkers on because you don't want to see anything else. I'm all right with the problems I already
Yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's enough for me. And with the kids, so we said before that with the kids can come up with some creative ideas to maybe build a few props, if you like, for the dog to use with days. Um, how else can children be involved, or can you suggest maybe a couple of things that the children could do to help with the ACE-free work?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we touched on kids' imagination is brilliant for free work, and I think there's so many things that they could do. I think they could help with actually designing the stations, the layouts, because I think they will be so good if you task them to go off around the house, go and find some stuff and see what might be the right kind of height, and they will they'll probably pick up an object and not think, oh, well, it's meant to be this way up, therefore that won't work. They will probably look at it and think about it in 3D and go, what about if we turn it on its side and we do this with it? Like, that imagination, I think, can be hugely beneficial. I think, I had nieces that were right into Minecraft, and I was thinking, you've kind of got like an Ace free work version of Minecraft where they're kind of designing how they want it to be. It might be, drawing stuff out. I mean, I actually, if I'm working with a new client or I'm doing something new for Bodhi, I'll actually just scribble out.
Yeah.
And I got really bad. I went to art college, but my drawings are terrible. I'll be like doing these weird little drawings of what my raised snuffle mat looks like and my recycling box where I'm trying to get my parallels, or they're not parallel at all. It doesn't matter. Like, they're just crazy drawings that I understand. So you could get the kids actually maybe drawing some ideas for stations. I think helping them to think about like things like textures. If you say to them, right, well, imagine they were walking on something, in bare feet. What would it feel like to them? And I do actually walk on some things with my own feet to get a sense of what it's like. Flattened cardboard or bath mats with little, sort of frondy, sausagey fingers, and kids' play mats, perhaps. What can they find around the house that could be used? Obviously, I would say with supervision, that we want to make sure that they're not taking some silk throw from a bedroom that really doesn't want to come out into the garden or something like that.
We're gonna hide some treats in there.
Yeah, exactly. They could be choosing all the different foods. Like it's not all about food, but food is a very easy way to really get a dog to be interested and to explore for most dogs. So thinking about whatever is their normal food, whether it's dry food or it's wet food or it's raw, I'm sure it could be placed in a way that is suitable and safe in that environment. It might be making some treats together or prepping up some lick mats. What could go on that? Could it be a bit of yogurt or doggy peanut butter and things like that? Another thing that I love, and also for dogs that are not that foodie, thinking about things that might smell interesting for the dog. So on walks recently, I've been collecting up feathers. I now have a massive pot of feathers. Wherever I see a feather that's not covered in muck, I pop it in my dog pouch and I bring it home, and I literally have a pot this big of feathers. And I can put those out, and often dogs find those really interesting to smell. Might be pebbles from a beach. I don't think you're allowed to take pebbles off a beach, but
Actually, I think you can take pebbles, but you can't
can
take
you? Is that what it is? But things that you see on a walk, or it might be a little bit of wood, or a little branch or something like that that could come back home. So yeah, thinking about things that the dogs might find interesting to sniff. Um, Helping with the observations, like we've said, how they can see things that we don't. Could they just draw a picture of it while it's happening? If they're old enough to have a mobile phone, like could they do the videoing? We want to make sure that we are not intrusive to the experience for the dog. There are some times when interactions are good, but mostly we would want to prop up a phone and hit record. But perhaps the kid is of an age where they could be taking a video. They're not following them around,
Yeah.
getting in the dog's face. But
In
like,
the
could
wrong
they
way.
help
Yeah, yeah.
to? Yeah, could they help with observations? Maybe they could make a list of like what the dog chose, like making little like journal notes as to, oh yes, the dog really liked the yogurt on the lick mat at that station, but didn't seem so interested there. Um, so yeah, I think there's lots of things that they can do. I think the important thing is definitely, and this applies to whether it's humans doing it without supervision or adults supervising children, like making sure that it is stable, it's not too challenging for the dog. This is not about making things difficult. It's not about a challenge. It's about creating a lovely, calm experience. So making sure that there is just a sensible eye. But as I say, it applies whether we're setting them up without any kids' involvement whatsoever. Could anything sort of roll and startle them and things like that? So just having that sort of supervision. So yeah, I think there's so many things that kids can really bring something extra to it that us very boring thinking adults generally can't access.
And it's brilliant because it's also, again, another alternative to uh, going out to walking the dog all the time, which is also part of what you do. Um, and also, I'm thinking as well, say that you are a mom of just a baby or a parent of a baby, but you also have your older kid. So that's a great activity for the dog to do with supervision, as you said, but you could have the baby there and the older child do some free work. And if that day you can't take the dog out, if that day is a challenging day where you know that that is the only time the dog is going to get of you, basically,
Yeah.
it's a good time. And
Yeah, it's hugely beneficial. Actually, a couple of my clients I'm working with locally do have newborn babies. They haven't got older children, but they've got newborn babies. And both of the dogs have been very interested in the baby, really struggling with the crying noises and that kind of thing. So we've been doing ACE-free work behind the baby gates,
right, yeah,
is able to do changing, and obviously the nappy smells and all of that kind of thing used to really cause
I know.
issues for the dog. The dog was just way too interested, whereas now it's like ACE-free work on his side of the barrier while the mum is doing all the things, feeding and changing, and the dog is just like, yeah, whatever, I'm okay, I'm over here, see you later. You let me know when you're finished. And it's just they're growing,
Yeah.
they're growing to be comfortable around each other. And yeah, if there was an older child in that situation, that would be even better, because then
Mm.
they can be setting up that side of things and leaving mum or dad to deal with baby or youngsters. Yeah.
And also, it helps to build that positive association that when the baby is getting changed or he cries or he needs feeding and he needs the full attention of the parent, then the dog, as you say, he's busy doing his thing, but at the
Mm.
same time, he doesn't freak out anymore because he knows that it's relaxing time rather than freaking
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah, definitely. And you can prep some stiff stuff up. You can have some lick mats prepped in the fridge or whatever. You've got a pot of mixed treats ready, so you can just grab a couple of, it might not look pretty at all. It doesn't matter. A couple of snuffle mats and slap it down and poof, off you go. Like, it doesn't need to be all kind of like architecturally designed. Like, sometimes I might do them, but if you're short of time, like,
be sure to save you short of
oh,
time, and you can, especially if you maybe are expecting, for example, you can prepare now
yeah,
or have an agreement with your partner or another member of the family or a
yeah,
friend that a lot of the time they do want to help. Then that when
yeah.
they see that you're struggling, whether you're having a baby or whether the child is already a bit older, but maybe, for instance, is homeschooled or maybe it's not very well that day or whatever, then other people can do free work for you as well. Because the dog will like it so much or likes it already if he's been doing it, it doesn't even have to be you, does it? It could be that maybe there is like a house sitting person that comes to help out or a pet sitter, then they could also do it
Mm.
for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dog.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's something that doesn't restrict it to their human in the family, right?
Yeah, yeah, and the more, as you say, if they've done it before,
Mm.
then albeit we might tweak and change stations over time if we're looking to work on something, but if it's purely about creating relaxing, pleasurable experiences, when they recognize those two snuffle mats coming out on the lick mat, they're like, oh, I know what this is all about. And it's the same way that you can then take those to the vet and they're like, oh, I know what this is all about. Or you go and stay somewhere else and they're like, oh, this is this little home from home.
Yeah,
That association with calm, you know, you might add in some scents, like, you know, we love the pet remedy spray. If there's just general associations of these objects and this experience, that can be really portable.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Um, so say that you're working with a client and then or say that you have a family that would like to work with you. How do they reach you? Or how can they find also other ACE professionals that are possibly across the country if they can't work with you?
Yeah, so there's a register of ACE trainers. There's different levels
Mhm.
of trainers. We can all teach it one to one. The more senior trainers can run group workshops and things like that. A number of us work online as well as in person. So wherever you are, I mean, I work with a lady in Australia at the moment.
Oh,
So, you know, distance is not an issue.
fantastic.
So, you know, you may find people locally that you can work with, if not online, is always an option. So I think, oh, the web address, I think from memory, I want to say it's tillyfarm.org.uk, and
I'll
Tilly
find it and I'll put it.
Tilley.
Mhm.
So that's probably a good place to go. But now, you know, if you're Googling or using AI search engines, and if you go for looking for Ace FreeWork dog trainer near me, I'm sure AI will have a good crack at something. If not, it'll bring you up online options,
Yeah.
like me. And there's lots of other trainers that do it online as well. So yeah, it's I've got a little freebie that people can download, and it's so there's so many layers to it, but it's so easy to just do it with, like, literally, you know, if no one's never done, if they've never done it before, you could walk out of, you know, your office or your room right now and just go and pick up some stuff and have a go. Like it's not difficult. There's just so many things you can do it when you go down the rabbit hole. So I've got a free guide that gives people some sort of the basic good principles, making sure you've got water and things like that, making sure things are stable, some of those kind of things that I've mentioned, and some ideas for things that you will just find lying around the home. So, you know, you don't have to work with somebody. It's obviously helpful, but I think the main thing is that more people know what ACE free work is at some level and go, why would I not do that for my dog a couple
Yeah,
of times a week?
exactly. You mentioned you have a freebie. How do we get it? What is it? Tell me.
Yeah, so we can give a direct link to it. My website is simply puptalk.co.uk. By the time this goes live, the new website will be live. It's been a long time coming, but hopefully it will be live in about 2 days. So I'm sure it'll
Oh,
be up and
amazing.
running. So there is actually a visible tab that says Ace Free Work now, which wasn't on the old site. So that'll be super easy. But if you go to puptalk.co.uk, you'll find it, or we can pop the link directly to the freebie.
Oh, that's amazing. And do you have also other things in kind of planned for the future? You're always up to something.
Yes, so we're nearly up to the 4 year anniversary of the book Stop Walking Your Dog coming out. I can't believe it. I have been writing the follow up for over 2 years.
Yeah, I'm
There's
there
just
with you. Yeah, I've been
yes,
reading
there's a few other things that I've been doing. So I'm nearly there. I'm probably three-quarters of the way there reading. So hopefully spring 2026-ish, that should be coming out. Um, so and that's really taking the message about stop walking your dog onto another level, which is kind of what I do with people one to one. If you have swapped walks out for other activities, you're walking them less, or you're changing what you do in some way. Sometimes I see people get stuck from, okay, my gut told me walking my dog several times a day wasn't working. People say I gave them permission to do things differently, like to ditch one of those walks or to walk them less, and to give them some things to occupy the dog and help them at home. But then they can get stuck with, okay, well, my dog can do all these games and activities at home and in the garden. That looks great and that looks fun, but I want to go back to walks. And it's the bit in between. You can't just take what you did there and take it there. It's all the little sort of nuanced steps as to how you start to grow it. And some of those steps to start off with are really small. And when you break things down, as you do in so much dog training, the first parts that you break down way smaller than you possibly think. And it's that nuanced bit that I'm trying to write about in the next book, which is
Yeah.
a little challenging, but I'm getting there.
I guess it's also challenging sometimes to find the time and everything because it's
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
put it out because you have it in your head and you're doing it and everything, but how do you put it in writing so that a bigger audience can
Yeah.
benefit
And
from it? So, yeah,
it's
that's the
coming.
tricky part.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
coming.
absolutely. But you let us know when it's out, and who knows, it might be out for crafts. Maybe we're gonna be there in 2026 again.
Don't know whether it'll be there for crafts. It depends
Okay, that's March, so it
what
depends.
happens this side of Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. Get cracking, get writing.
I know.
Everyone's waiting.
Uh,
Oh, Nikki, thank you so much for chatting about Ace Free Work today. I think it's not only a great activity, something that would be great for people to really know more about. So hopefully they can find you. The website will also be in the comments, so people can get to you quite easily. And also you are part of Kids Around Dogs, so they can also find you on our website. But what you do is awesome. It's always been awesome. Everything you do with a lot of love and real care and attention for the dogs and for your clients as well. Because ultimately, while we look after the dog and everything, we do it also because our clients have had enough. So they're like, I'd say we need to do something about this. So it's
yeah,
so important
absolutely.
to give a peace of mind to our humans as well and the little ones, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me talk about one of my favorite subjects.
Amazing. Oh, well, anytime. Anytime. Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you in another video soon. If you enjoy this chat, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and let us know how your free work is going. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.